Welcome back. This time we're talking about Batman v Superman Man of Steel. The first true summer blockbuster of 2016, even though we're still in March. Well, this is the long-awaited follow-up to Man of Steel, which came out in 2013, and the first true building block of DC's planned cinematic universe in their competition with Marvel. A lot was riding on this movie, a lot of anticipation, and a lot of worries, frankly, based on some of the things that we'd seen in the trailers and the idea that we were getting a lot more characters than we originally thought. So how was it? I just got a chance to go see it, literally got home about a half hour ago, and I have to say, I was very pleasantly surprised with this movie. I really went in with a lot of trepidation based on things I had seen in the trailers, based on the idea of that it seemed like they kept adding more and more characters to this movie. And frankly, I enjoyed Man of Steel, but to serve as the foundation of a new shared universe for DC, I mean, it was a foundation that had some cracks in it. I mean, Man of Steel, whether you loved it or hated it, I mean, you have to admit, it had some flaws. So I really went into this one honestly really worried. I was hoping that it would be good. As a comic book reader, I've always read DC Comics more so than Marvel. It's just what I grew up with, and when I got back into comics in college and later, I went back to DC. Batman, some Superman, a lot of the crossover, big event comics. I've read most of them that have come out in the last 10 years or so, and really enjoyed them. So I've been wanting good DC movies, and I have to say this one was surprisingly good. Considering all of my worries, this was a very enjoyable movie. Now, like Man of Steel, this is a very serious take on the comic book genre. Now, not so much in like the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, which kind of kept everything in the realism, and those were serious movies as well. But I want to separate realism from serious. When I say serious here, like in Man of Steel, there's very little, if any, comic relief. There's like one or two throwaway, jokey lines. Like Man of Steel, I just rewatched it. I think there were like 3 joke lines. In this one, I could think of maybe 2, and they were in the same scene. So this isn't your Iron Man. This isn't your Ant-Man. And really, it isn't even like Captain America, in say like the Winter Soldier, which is probably their most serious movie. There was still more comic relief in moments to kind of catch your breath. This is a much more serious take on the comic book genre, and that appears the way that DC is wanting to go with it, at least until we get Suicide Squad later this summer. But as far as this movie goes, story-wise, and don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but if you've seen any of the trailers, and hopefully you haven't seen the one that basically gives away a lot of the plot points that I wish they hadn't, this is dealing with the aftermath of Superman's battle with General Zod that leveled a good portion of downtown Metropolis and killed untold thousands of people. Obviously, that was, in this universe, this was Earth's introduction to Superman. And the story picks up about 18 months later, and Superman is now the Superman that we typically think about. He goes out and saves the day, rescues people from fires and things like that, and has become a hero to a lot of people. But there are also a lot of other people who really aren't too keen on this idea that this superpowered alien is amongst us. And one of those is Bruce Wayne, otherwise known as Batman. And he is very worried about the potential of Superman going bad. So much so that he's devoting a good portion of his time to finding out ways to curb this perceived threat. Throw in Lex Luthor, and he has his fingers in a lot of pies. most of them nefarious, and that is, the main engines of our story. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to spoil too much else. But talking about a few of the new characters, do want to say Ben Affleck as Batman. A lot of worry, a lot of jokes when that casting was announced. I have to say he was great in this movie. No complaints whatsoever as whether it was him as Bruce Wayne or him in the suit as Batman. Nailed it. Don't go in with any worries about Ben Affleck. He was great in this movie. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I honestly was more worried about him than I was about Affleck. And I have to say, for the version of Lex Luthor that we get in this movie, I thought he did a great job. He portrayed the character they wanted to have in this movie. And I enjoyed it, less so because of its accuracy to the comics, but more so because it's a different Lex than we've gotten in other Superman movies. And for that, I'm frankly happy, because I'm about tired of Lex Luthor as far as his live action film appearances. And then, real quick, I'll also mention Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I thought she did great. Again, that was another casting decision that was met with some worry. My biggest worry in this case was whether we needed Wonder Woman or if she was going to be one plot thread too many. I have to say, I thought they integrated her character into the story quite well, and didn't feel like it was unnecessary. It actually felt like an organic part of the overall story that was being told. So, all in all, this is it's an enjoyable movie. It's a long movie. It's 2 hours and I think 31 minutes. But it's not a movie that, for the most part, feels overly long. There are stretches that it just does feel like a long movie. And I think even if it was shorter, it'd feel like a long movie just because there's a lot of story to be told. And there are segments where we don't get a lot of action. And for me personally, I don't have a huge problem with that if it's serving the story and serving the characters, and in this case it does. But I can see where some people are going to go into this movie and be like, man, there were some stretches in there where there was nothing going on. So if you're one of those people, go in with that warning. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would. It's not a perfect movie, but it does do a good job of telling its story while also dealing with the aftermath of the previous film, and also doing some nods here or there to set up the future movies without it feeling too forced. So, to sum things up, if you like DC, you like Superman, you like Batman, go see this movie. More likely than not, you're going to enjoy it. I did, and I actually, for the first time, have some genuine hope that this whole DC cinematic universe they're going to be able to pull it off. So as far as my rating, much higher than I actually ever thought it would be going into this, but I'm going to give this a solid A-. And until next time, I hope to have a longer, more in-depth, spoiler-filled review of Batman v Superman sometime early next week. I'm going to try to go see this again sometime this weekend to try to help get my thoughts in order. Plus, this is a movie I do want to see a second time, which should tell you something there. So until then, I'll see you at the movies.